All right, good evening, everyone. The time is 7:30 on Thursday, May 15th, 2025, and I'm calling the annual meeting of the Village of Martins Additions Council to order. A little history, according to the village charter, the annual meeting was established and must occur before the first half of May or on or by May 15th, is that right? And it's when the budget for the coming year is adopted. The proposed FY 2026 budget was introduced in previous meetings. It's been available to review. And tonight is when we will discuss and hopefully adopt it. A little more history. I think I heard this from you last year, Arthur. The annual meeting is scheduled on what's formerly the official election day of the VMA, which is a bygone era. That's when we used to vote in person for our council members and not entirely by mail-in ballots, but we also have the option these days to drop those off in our sealed ballots in the in person in the blue box. So as was the case in last week's very successful celebration on the sidewalk. So the annual meeting used to follow the village election, and the election committee members used to count the ballots in a separate room during that same night. So, however, times have changed, and so have our needs, and I believe the budget for the future reflects the changing times. Another acknowledgement before we dive into the agenda. Not that I can make declarations as chair, but I would like to declare May 14th, which was yesterday, Michael Silliman Day, because that is the birthday of our awesome village manager. So please join us in wishing Michael a very happy birthday and many more. And there's also birthday treats to follow if you're in the room. And if you want to share, Michael, they're your treats. So before we crunch the numbers, let's talk weather. The first item on tonight's agenda is the weather report from Turner Lane weatherman Keith Allen.
The weather update on a day that turned out to be very beautiful. The puffy cumulus clouds that actually were not fair weather clouds. Some of those could have developed into thunder showers, and that's what we've got in the forecast for tomorrow. Some could be heavy, with even some damaging winds and hail and very heavy rain. But it will clear out and be a very pleasant weekend with low humidity and temperatures in the 70s. And looking ahead, there won't be any more 80s for the rest of the month of May going into June. We're going to average probably below normal on temperature, and the precipitation in the form of rain, of course, will be above normal. So that's going to finish out the month. And right now, my summer forecast, I can kind of safely say it's going to be hot and humid, but not quite as bad as last summer.
Oh, okay.
And I hear somebody cheering. And that's the weather forecast.
All right.
Time is up. I thank you for yours.
Thanks, Keith. Thank you so much. All right, next up, resident comments. And this is just a reminder, if you have comments on the budget, we also have a public hearing listed with that later agenda item. So if there are any non-budget comments or questions at this time, those are welcome. I did want to acknowledge Lori. I don't know if anyone from the council sent you a reply to your email, but thank you for sending the photo of the new stop signage traffic, calming device over on Raymond Street as a suggested option.
We also have them on Taylor too.
All of Taylor in section 3. So I've seen it many times now. It's
I apologize for not
That's
replying
okay.
to that.
I
But
have
actually walked over, and it's even more impressive in person.
It's quite something.
And I think we should consider something like that.
Yeah.
Later discussion.
Yes, absolutely. So if there are any resident comments, let me see here. Anyone in the room? Resident comment? No? Okay.
Well, I might have something to say.
Okay.
Briefly, it has to do
Sure.
with the hiring in 2013 of the police,
Mhm.
which I frankly think is a waste of money.
Mhm.
And I've got documentation of that to prove that the break-ins, burglaries, vandalism, home invasion went up in the last 11 to 12 years. But what I propose is not that we hire anybody, is we just call the second district, which they will do, and have marked cars come through the VMA at night and even set out in front of the stores as a deterrent.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Keith. Let's see. I don't see any other comments, questions? Concerns? No? Okay. Well, we can just keep moving along. Next up is the approval of the last council meeting minutes from April 17th. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yes,
I will-
okay.
I will move to approve the minutes from last month.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, good. I didn't know, I don't know if Andrew raised his hand, but
Andrew, are
he
you
might not
on
be in a
there?
place to vote just yet. That's fine. Okay, he's in transit, so. But we have four votes. That's good. Okay, so then next on the agenda, committee reports. But first, I would like to ask Ron, if I may, could you provide a very quick refresher about the Open Meetings Act, like specifically what qualifies as an advisory versus administrative meeting and why it is important to state and schedule VMA committee and task force meetings to the public as opposed to meeting privately at a convenience, like an elevator speech, like fast definition, just a reminder of why it's important.
Sure.
Schedule.
Okay, yeah, so the Open Meetings Act applies to all public agencies, including the council and all committees. And so if a committee, just like the council, is engaged in a covered function, then their meetings need to be open. And the Open Meetings Act says a covered function includes advisory discussions. Advisory discussions are when you're forming a recommendation to give to another agency. So most of the work of a committee is advisory in nature, coming up with recommendations for the council. And so those discussions do need to be open. And the Open Meetings Act says you have to give public notice of when you're going to meet and allow the public an opportunity to come and watch, not participate, just watch. Administrative functions are excluded from the openness requirements. Administrative functions include the execution of existing laws or policies. Occasionally, committees might be engaged in administrative functions, but advisory committees, not so much. I mean, the election committee, the ethics committee, they have statutory duties that they're executing. And those types of things would be administrative. But other committees that are studying issues, compiling recommendations, most of their work is going to be advisory. I hope that helps.
No, it does. And I know that when it comes to scheduling meetings, it can be a challenge, especially the more people you have on committee and dates. And I know it's like convenient sometimes to take them offline, but it is important to publicly schedule.
One question on that, Ron. If the committee members are doing things like setting up
Mhm.
a future meeting time, where does that fall?
Yeah, if it's nothing of substance, just are you available on this date? What kind of sandwich would you like? That's not subject to the Open Meetings Act. It would have to be discussions deliberative in nature. What do you think about this? Should we recommend this or that to the council?
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Ron. All right. Well, now let's hear from committees and task force if anyone's present. Do we have anyone from Stormwater?
I see Elizabeth Goldberg there.
Okay. Elizabeth, do you have a report or anything to present for Stormwater?
I can give an informal update
That's fine. Yeah.
that the Bayland Engineering Company that has the contract to do the study recently this past week conducted a second walkthrough of about, I think it was 13 or 14 properties for the purpose of doing elevation surveys. So these were sites that addresses that were noted after the first walkthrough as potential problem areas with flooding or drainage or whatever. So follow up. And so this was just a group of the engineers, basically. They were all technical people from the company. They were out on the corner, down here on the corner of Oxford and Quincy, and I just went out to introduce myself and say hello and offer them a glass of water if they needed anything. But the results of this, as I understand, will go into the next phase, which is to develop models. So the elevation surveys, the topographical surveys, the analysis of all of the maps and documents that phase has been completed, that the task force gave to them and the village gave to them to study. And so they're going to be developing models now based on, different scenarios for us. So that's where we are at the moment. We had also a meeting with the project manager, Megan, it's in the work plan in meeting just to check on the steps, the phases of the project, where they are in it, and to update the calendar. So there was a brief meeting for that purpose also in the past week. That's about it at the moment, but it's moving along. I think the end date has been extended by about 2 weeks now. So it'll probably take us, Michael can refresh my memory, but I think it'll take us probably up pretty close to July. One other thing is there is a date for the first meeting with the residents to share the initial, findings, not recommendations, but what they've found so far, and primarily to allow residents to express any comments or concerns that they have. If they hadn't had a chance already to talk to anybody from the task force, this will be the opportunity to do it. So we're going to need to be sure, we'll have to check with Mark on that, to get the publicity out well in advance, because that's coming up. Michael will tell Michael the date in May.
Yeah, it's June 18th.
June 18th. Yeah, June 18th. Right. So that'll be a very important meeting to let everybody express, ask questions, get some answers, with the project manager from Bayland being there and giving the presentation.
Sure, thank you. And thank you for the update. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No, that's
and,
okay. No problem.
That will be great because, you're very popular. A lot of people have been asking what is the Stormwater Committee up to. So this is great. I'm glad there's going to be a meeting
Right.
where the public can ask questions. So thank you so much. All right, well, we have ethics and CEC in the room. You can toss a coin, or who wants to go first? All right, Lori,
Lori
ethics.
Mitchell from the Ethics Committee. I'll keep it very brief tonight. Our next meeting is going to be June 9th, where we will be discussing our year-end report. That's our final meeting of the year. With that said, I listened to the candidates forum, and there were several resident questions regarding how could the village get more residents to serve either on the council or committee. And as a member of the ethics committee now for several years, I'm just going to throw it out there that if anyone is interested in talking to me about what it's like to serve on the ethics committee, I'm happy to answer any questions they might have about the time commitment and what the role of the committee is. I'm in the directory, so feel free to reach out to me. That's it.
Great. Thank you
you.
so much, Lori. All right, Keith, would you like to do a report for CEC, or is anybody else?
We had a very nice turnout. I mean, I think it was the best ever for the sidewalk. I don't know if we did a head count, but that was just what I ascertained from being there a week ago, this past Tuesday, May 6th, for our celebration on the sidewalk. And right now we're trying to work this ice skating thing out. With the Avalon Theater movie night was very successful, and I'm looking forward to doing more of those. But that's the thing on the agenda right now that we're concerning ourselves with. And then, of course, in the next we're still in this fiscal year for the picnic, for the Independence Day celebration. So I'm working on that with the best people that you could ever possibly find to help out with things like that is my team, and they're the best. Just like my buddy over here. Thank you.
All right, great. So more events on the horizon for CDC. That's
You know
great.
why it's so
And
good.
that was a great celebration on the sidewalk. And also a part of that was the election committee because they were womaning the blue box. So I'm going to kick it to Marty. I think I saw you on. Do you have an election committee report I see here?
Hi there.
Hi.
And on behalf of the entire election committee, I'd like to thank the staff and happy birthday, Michael, and the entire community engagement committee for all their wonderful work to support our Civics Day, which is basically what the celebration on the sidewalk is. We had a great turnout at the election table. A lot of residents used the secure election drop box to deliver their ballots, and we have delivered them to the contractor for counting on May 21st, all done very securely, good chain of custody, all of that. So that was very successful. And again, thanks for all the support work from both the staff and the engagement committee. Our written report is in the packet for this council meeting. Basically, things are on track. Residents are invited to observe the vote counting on May 21st. And the announcement about the Zoom link for that will be going out on Friday, tomorrow. So again, it's a great opportunity for residents to see how ballots are counted at the local level, and you're invited to watch and listen. We will produce the election results just as soon as we have them. Typically, that's a couple of days after the initial count because we do, as a committee, have to verify and certify the vote count to make sure no ballots were missed. We are very diligent about our election committee work, as you all know. That's it for now, unless people have any questions. The written report is in your packet, and we're happy to answer questions from either council members or residents anytime. Our committee email is always posted every Friday, and you can always call me. So thank you to everybody who's made this election cycle work well, including the candidates. Any questions?
Thank you, Marty. Does any council have any questions for Marty or the election committee? Anyone in the room? See anyone on the Zoom? No, I think it sounds like everything's going smoothly. So thanks for
Katie,
all.
could I just make one quick comment?
Sure, Ron. Mhm.
Marty already knows, but just as a reminder, the election results do need to be sent to the State Board of Elections. They post the results on the website now as a result of a new law passed in 2023. But happy to say Martin's Additions was one of my clients that did comply last year. So,
We do try, Ron. We do try.
We'll keep our streak up. All right.
Yeah. I should mention here, just in terms of general information, I think the council members know, I know that Michael knows this, the county election register is still way out of date. The poor county board of elections and state board of elections are really struggling to try to develop accurate voter rolls, but the county voter roll for Martin's Additions is very much inaccurate, which makes it all the more important that we do things like we did last year or this year, which is to very carefully update and verify our own VMA voter roll because it has to be accurate. And we will also be following up with information for the County Board of Elections on who actually lives in VMA so they can have our information as a way to help them with their struggle to update their county voter roll and hopefully make it more accurate next year. And just for public reference, we ended up with 622 voters in Martin's Additions this year. And hopefully all or most of them have voted. We won't know that till the 21st when we start counting the ballots. But thank you to everyone who's participated in this election at every level. And Ron, thank you for helping us make sure that we keep up with the state laws because we certainly do care a lot about doing good elections here in this village. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Marty. And I don't think we heard from anti-Semitism. His ears are burning. Do you have any update for the anti-Semitism task
I
force?
really don't.
Okay.
I don't think. We were going to do an event with the rabbi,
Right.
but I think it was pushed back. Was there anything else, Michael? I mean,
It hasn't been rescheduled yet, as far as I know, so
yeah,
I'm not sure what's going on there.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, is this yours?
Okay.
No, that's you.
Well, that concludes all the committee reports. So the next item on the agenda is an update on county and state housing initiative. And I was in the Ron, you're getting a lot of airtime. So sorry about that,
Okay.
but
Yeah, no
we would
problem. All
love
right,
an
so-
update.
Yeah, first on the county's zoning text amendment
Mhm.
2502, the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee has held a one work session, and now the county council's focusing on the budget, so we expect them to pick up work again on this ZTA probably in July. As you know, this law would allow multifamily housing, duplexes, triplexes, quads on corridor streets. There are currently no corridor streets that abut Martin's Additions, but this one's worth keeping an eye on because it could be expanded in the future. So, we'll keep an eye on that and let you know how that progresses. Next, I wanted to tell you about a state law that did pass that kind of flew under the radar until the very end. House Bill 1466. This is an accessory dwelling unit law, which provides local governments have until October of 2026 to adopt legislation allowing accessory dwelling units. Montgomery County's already done so, but Martin's Additions has adopted some companion regulations. This state law says you have to treat accessory buildings the same. A detached garage, a shed, an accessory dwelling unit that's detached, they all have to be afforded the same setback. You can't impose a stricter setback on an ADU than another accessory building. So that's something we'll have to take a look at. The Martin's Additions Code will need to be amended as a result of this state law. Because right now, Martin's Additions approach is to state basically a dwelling is a dwelling. A dwelling needs to be set back X feet from the front, rear, and side. And accessory buildings that aren't dwellings have lower setbacks like sheds. But going forward, in October 2026, we'll have to revise those to have the same setbacks for ADUs and other accessory buildings. And then finally, as you know, the bill that we were working on was passed by the House, has been sent to the governor, and should be signed on May 20th, Tuesday, May 20th. And so that provides clarification that if those multifamily buildings are authorized within the village, we do have the ability to impose the same types of regulations that we impose on single family dwellings. So that's my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes, does anybody on council have any questions for Ron? Jeff?
Just maybe just I don't know if I have a question formulated, but just a quick note. When I was at the MML, they had a housing conference last summer, and the accessory dwelling unit data use was like a big topic at the time. And I know from the governor's office, they had their a lot of representation there. And from their perspective, it was about, the idea with aging in place and other things, there was a way to earn income, right? So, I mean, I understood the rationale, but maybe the question being, I didn't quite understand when you were mentioning the setbacks apply.
Sure.
So how is that, right? Because we have footprints. I see Doug and Hiromi here, and they've educated us an awful lot on these things as they've gone through their own process. So how does that work? Is that the idea that
I can give you some.
Still, it rolls up into one aggregate. It still has to be within our requirements. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Thank you for the question, and I'll give you some specific numbers that should put this in a more detailed context for everyone to understand. So right now in Martin's Additions, we say a detached garage or a shed has to be 5 feet from the rear and side lot lines. And we say an accessory dwelling unit. So you take that same detached garage, but if it has a dwelling unit in it, then the setbacks become 8 feet for the side and 20 for the rear, because it's a dwelling that, you know, imposes additional concerns with respect to neighboring uses. So it has the increased setbacks like the dwelling unit, the main building. And what this state law says is if you give a shed or detached garage a 5-foot setback, you have to give that same 5-foot setback to an accessory dwelling unit. So that means they can be closer to the rear and side lot lines than currently allowed under the village regulations. Does that make sense, Jeff?
It does. And then, well, I guess we can have more in-depth discussion. I don't want to take too much real estate, but if these become opportunities for increased income for homeowners, you know, they're renting this out.
Yes.
And I guess it would have to cascade in terms of the, you know, are those things that we, in our regulations. But so does this become also a potential income generating activity for the village? Are these taxable sort of streams that can come in?
Yeah. So yeah, another great question. You know, interestingly, years ago, when the county first adopted its laws allowing accessory dwelling units, part of the reason the county did so was to be able to tax them, because they were finding that, you know, Airbnb uses and such were going on without taxation. And so the answer to your question is absolutely. So the village doesn't have the ability to impose income tax on residents, but we get a share of the residents' state or county tax liability, whichever is greater, and certain percentages. So yeah, the more residents that come in, the more income tax revenue we will receive. And also the village does have the ability to impose property taxes. And so, you know, as property values increase because of the additional improvements, then, you know, the real property tax the village will see will increase. Does that answer your question, Jeff?
It does, and I promise this is my famous. Oh, one more, but you know, when it comes to parking and things like that, I mean, are these all things that need to be like discussed as a council around or does the state override anything that would be burdensome to have these units?
Yeah, no, another great question. So right now, Martin's Additions provides that if you have a ADU on your property, you need to provide 2 dedicated on-site parking spaces, because we want to try and you know, not have too much congestion on the street. The state law says we can impose special parking requirements, but they have to be supported by a study. So by the October 26th deadline, we'll have to, you know, have a study serving as a basis for what we have or anything else we want to do with respect to special parking requirements. The county says, I believe, you have to have 1 dedicated space for an ADU, and the village has said 2.
Thanks for humoring me, everyone. I've just
No,
thanks.
that's fine.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Just so that I can put
Right.
what Ron just said in context, we've been talking about doing building code review and amendments anyways. It's my recommendation that the council kind of take this up as next year's big project. We know there's recommendations coming from the water task force. We know we have other concerns with our code as is currently written, just from being here for a couple of years and dealing with certain projects. I have a list of edits that I've started putting together. And then this ADU stuff is going to require us to make some edits as well. Ron has already started drafting kind of that list of area sections of our code that need to be edited to comply with this state law. So I actually think we should probably hire an outside consultant or engineer to come in and take a holistic look at our building code, specifically chapter 7, but chapter 6 as well. And provide kind of a holistic, combining all of these things into one big overview. So that's coming, whether we like it or not.
We actually did that some years ago, where we had an outside law firm make sure that we were consistent with changes in state code, changes in county, and it was a thorough review. We made, I don't know how many, 30 or 40 individual changes.
That was probably almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
At least 9, I
Right.
think.
Okay.
So it's been a while. Ready for a redo.
A redo.
Every 10 years.
A rewrite.
Or the census.
Yeah. A reboot. Okay.
I mean, there's some really
Yeah.
simple things that I would like to clean up. I mean, like our ability to issue fines to developers that are violating our code is, it's like $100. So it's not really
That should be released.
much of a slap on the hand there. So there's things like that that we could review at the same time.
Okay, good.
Okay. Great. That's good suggestions. Ron, do any residents have any questions for Ron? Or would you be open to answering any questions? Doesn't look like it's a quiet,
Sure,
we have a
yeah,
quiet
sure.
bunch tonight, and no one seems to have their hand up. I guess everyone's ready for the next item. So thank you, Ron. I think that takes care of that. We'll just move on to the headliner, or tonight's big ticket item, literally. It's the FY 2026 budget. And so we're going to start with a public hearing and then the possible adoption of that. So I know we heard last year from our treasurer, first, Dr. Jeffrey Blander. So has everybody had a chance to review the budget? And I guess we open this up to questions from council or residents. And I think we've taken into account inflation increases, right? Yep.
So,
Yeah,
just
please.
quick point of order question. Did you want did you want just a short narrative
Yes.
before opening it up just to?
Yes, and or Michael, if you have a narrative for that can kind of.
I think we should do the public hearing though.
Oh,
and
you
then
want
the
the questions
council
first,
hearing.
and then
Just give the residents an opportunity to speak up if they
let's
have
do
any.
that. It's been so
specific
quiet.
things.
I know. Let's see. Residents, do you have any questions about the budget? I think it's online, right? And so is there a page number here? Page
It's
7?
page 5
Page 5? Okay.
of your packet for tonight's meeting. We
Mm,
introduced it
5 and
2 months
5
ago,
and
and we
6.
also held a public budget working session
Mhm.
in, I think,
Right.
the end of February.
Right.
So people have seen it and had
Seen it.
plenty of opportunities to see it.
Okay.
The only thing I would add
Yes.
is first, in addition to thanking every member of the council and also our community who had really, significant and helpful inputs. I do want to give a special shout out to Michael. He's been magnificent, really. And, if you see all the details in terms of looking at the analysis of the percentage by category, and then looking at the very detailed line by line of any changes, any remainder remaining the same, any delta. Michael pulled this together, so he makes us all, particularly me, look a lot better than I am, but I just want to give that shout out. The only thing I'll mention, quite frankly, is again, thanking Arthur and all historical, really solid fiscal management of things, because we are in very good position, especially compared to other nearby communities. I mean, we have really substantial reserves. If you look at, again, these are just high level points. If you look at for the projected next year, we expect to have a surplus. It's not, a huge amount compared to this year, which is because we had ARPA and a few other things. That was, I think it's, within the $500,000 range or close. Next year, we're expecting a bit closer to about 100,000. But just recognizing that we had some estimates in terms of our income, which we project in this budget to be about the same, 750 to 750. And I think everyone recognizes actually there is a possibility that could dip. And then we also know that with the interest income we've been very fortunate with where rates have been, those could dip. So that 100,000 could dwindle down, or you could even see a little bit in the red. I know, and that's not alarmist. I mean, it's just a fact, but that is not unusual. We've had that in the past within VMA, if Arthur wanted to comment on that. But what we do have, as everyone knows, we do have significant reserves. So this is not exactly the idea that we are going through this storm. It's just the idea that things may shift a little bit. But again, we are on very good standing. And then the final point I'll make, unless Michael had anything else before we turn over for residents and the council, is there's really nothing here that should be alarming or out of sight. I mean, everything is pretty much in alignment to where we were last year. There are a couple places where we've increased, some places decreased. There may be some programs that we are continuing to support that we may have some discussion on tonight. However, with that said, those are very small percentages of the overall budget, but still, every line item deserves discussion and we welcome that. So with that said, again, let's turn it over, but there really isn't anything here that I see as alarming. In fact, we should all feel very good about this budget.
Sounds good. Okay.
I would
see-
just like to
Yes. go
say,
ahead.
looking historically, the interest that we're expecting this year and that we got last year, $200,000. It wasn't that long ago that when we looked at the interest rates on our reserves, you had to go like past 3 zeros before you got to a significant digit. And our interest for the year was more like $20, $30, $40, not 200,000. So these are the sort of changes that could come about. But as was said, probably not this year. We're looking at 2025 income and events in 2025. We're already halfway through there.
Mhm.
So I don't think that we will be seeing major changes in the next fiscal year. The one after that could be a challenge.
Mhm.
That's why just again, this is not necessarily for prolonging that discussion, but
Mhm.
that's why the ADU piece is interesting because it could be something, it may take a long time. Piece of this because it could actually see where that could increase income where that was just not something that you would have seen in the past.
Yeah.
And that's also where being a very prudent financial manager, as you have acknowledged and as Arthur has said, comes in extremely handy.
Mhm.
Not knowing what to anticipate years down the line, it's great not to, I'm getting a lot of comments from people. We have such a huge reserve. Why don't you spend the money?
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
not
we will be spending
necessarily.
some of it
well, we'll
on
spend it
capital
on-
projects.
We do
Right.
have a lot of earmarked.
But you see that
Projects.
what the incoming and the expenses are basically, you know, paycheck to paycheck here, if I can
Right,
use that
right,
example.
right.
So
Right.
having the reserves, it's not like we're adding to the reserves necessarily
yeah.
every year. So
Yeah.
it's
Right.
it's good to have that for a rainy day.
A rainy day fund.
Exactly.
And not
Mhm.
to, I mean, I think, again, it's going to open up to resident discussion, but I mean, I think there is, at least as long as I've been on the council, I mean, the council has entertained and has approved, new programs and different things. So I don't think it's that new programs are not approved. I just think that we do take an extra eye on it, understanding that, the future is a little less certain than it was maybe a couple of years ago.
If
Not
anything, we've
profligate.
expanded,
Yeah.
we've increased budgets for
New programs.
for
added
community
items,
engagement
yeah.
and all that. So
Yes. Yeah, Marty has her hand up. Marty, you have a comment or question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you to everybody who's worked on this budget. I think it's a really excellent budget. It reflects a lot of our values in terms of taking care of our residents and our community, our neighborhood, physically in terms of trees and emotionally and in terms of services for people. It's really quite good. A question for Michael. You talk in your manager's report this month and previous months about upgrading the website. And I'm wondering, where in the budget here would there be additional funds should you need to upgrade our website further? I assume it's in here somewhere. I just couldn't quite see where your IT expense was for updating upgrading the website.
So we have an IT budget, and we're already doing the upgrade to the website right now. It's happening next week, and that's included in our current contract for our website management.
Can you mention what the line item is?
It's
IT,
5070.
IT.
5070.
It's $18,000.
Would that be sufficient should you want to do future or additional improvements in the website? I can't wait to see the new one next week. That's great. Thank you for that. That's been needed for quite a while. But suppose we need something more than what we've got sort of in the pipeline right now.
So this budget is only for FY26. So I'm not anticipating any additional website improvements over the next 12 months.
Okay,
So
that was my question.
there was
So
a
that we
special
might
project.
Yeah, we might need a budget amendment if there was some kind of other major website cost involved in something the council wanted to do. Yes?
Yeah, I don't think there's enough money to do a major overhaul again next year.
Okay. And this overhaul this year does not include a component where you'd have like a public track record of requests or suggestions from residents to come in that we could track and see, the follow-up on those items. We still don't have that kind of a public reporting page here, correct?
Correct. I don't have any ticketing system or 311 system through our website. That's correct.
Okay.
And if we
To be
were going to
continued.
build something like that, it would probably be a third-party platform and not our current website.
I see. Because a lot of government agencies do that these days. They do have a web page where concerned constituents can, write in and say, how about XYZ? And I think that's a very useful way to track what happens when those requests come in, whether they just disappear into the ozone or whether action actually does occur. So how much would something like that cost? Do you have any idea to do that kind of a basic government tracking system?
I haven't priced out those types of systems. The county does have a 311 system, so that's already covered. But just from personal knowledge, my best friend builds 311 systems for cities all over the country. So I'm pretty familiar with these Salesforce systems, and they're quite expensive.
That was my concern, that
if
they
you
might
want
be
one of those
expensive.
big ones, but that's probably too big for us. We'd probably look for a different solution.
Yeah,
And
a
I
smaller
definitely
solution.
haven't priced those out for our use case.
Okay, well, I continue to think that it would be a very helpful feature to have both for the residents and the council, and of course for the staff as well, to be able to follow through so that things don't fall through the cracks. And Michael, I must say a compliment to you. You rarely drop things through the cracks. I am pleased and I commend you. Even without
thank
a public tracking system, you do a pretty good job of following up on stuff, I must say, and I want to put that on the record. Thank you.
Well, and part of your communications is, I don't know if anyone at home received a text message from our new alert system. So you'll have to let me know because that went into effect tonight. Michael has worked very hard on that as well. So thank you, Michael. Let's see, any other questions from residents or comments? Lawyer Keith in the room, do you have any comments or questions about the budget? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to move it over to council. So why don't we dive in? Okay. All right, Arthur, did you have some?
Yes, I will
Okay.
move
Mhm.
that we have a ordinance in front of us to adopt the budget for the coming fiscal year
Before-
beginning July 1st.
Before you
yeah,
introduce
go ahead.
that,
Oh, yes, yes.
as
what?
Jeff said, there are some small items,
go
but
ahead.
each one is worthy
Oh,
of
okay,
discussion.
We're
sorry.
discussing.
I
yes.
would like to
Mhm.
make sure, as Michael and I have already
Right.
discussed,
Mhm.
that we actually have some criteria in
Yeah.
place for the aging in place line item for
Yes.
Chevy
What
Chase at
number
Home.
is that?
Because
Very
to
last
date,
line.
there haven't been any criteria, although it was adopted with the specific intention and promise that there would be. So we're currently expending money that's not really compliant with what was
Yeah, I have some.
allocated.
You have
So
I
you
have
do
some
have
language
something
for this.
good.
I can
That's-
give it verbally.
Okay.
The Village Council adopted this sponsorship program of Chevy Chase at Home in the FY24 budget. And the village sponsored 11 people to Chevy Chase at Home that first year. After last year's budget discussion in FY25 budget, we discussed implementing a opt-in button. So people had to say that they needed it or wanted the village to sponsor it. And so the second year of membership, we enacted that, and there is a paragraph that we've asked people to opt in, put a check mark next to if you want the village to sponsor your membership to Chevy Chase at Home.
Mhm.
We could wordsmith that, and that'd be my recommendation to make it a little more clear that that's a need-based. We never actually built a specific means test or something like that for that. But maybe there would be a way to find a compromise in that language for this program. It currently says the Village of Martin's Additions residents are eligible to have their membership fees sponsored by the Village of Martin's Additions. If you are requesting that the Village of Martin's Additions sponsor your membership fee, please check here.
Yeah, that should have been much clearer. It should have said,
Yeah.
if you are unable to pay for this, then you are eligible. When we have residents saying, oh, it was there and I got it for the taking, and maybe next year I'll pay for it myself. That's not really what the intention of the program was. It was specifically designed to enable people who would otherwise not be able to afford it.
I mean, I agree. I think maybe there's a way to word it
So that
because we don't, I mean, number one, we don't want to embarrass residents either, right?
Right.
I think we want to make clear if it's too much of a hardship to pay for it yourself. We're making this program available and you're therefore eligible. And we just have to trust our friends and neighbors that what is a hardship for us might not be a hardship for them and vice versa, but that there is a reason they would want to take advantage of it, not because it's just there, but because it will relieve them and help them bridge the year, especially in these times. And who knows, with the stock market volatility and retirement savings and all that. So I feel like there's a way, and we don't have to word it here right now. We can tweak it where we make it, where we're respectful and we because there isn't a means test, we have to trust our friends and neighbors that
to a point, yeah.
To a
And
point.
I
understand.
suspect that.
I understand. There has to be a middle ground. There has to be some
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
understand.
we don't want to look at people's,
So as,
personal.
as far as the budget
Information,
conversation
but-
goes, the budget proposal in front of us that was introduced 2 months ago is keeping this budget line item flat. And this is less than 1% of our budget.
Right, understood. We recognize
go-
it's a
Yeah.
small percentage,
So-
but
so
it's
the
really
conversation
the
of-
principle because
Absolutely.
it was a workaround.
And the
Was there
conversation
an
about
increase
How it was.
from the first year to the second year in terms of
No, it's
participants?
just-
there
Oh,
was in the last year, just to make sure that if people requested it, we could cover it. But we're well under this for this year. So
Okay.
the budget's not a concern.
Right.
Go ahead, you want to?
No, I'm just pointing to you.
So I do want to thank Susan for pointing that out, and I just want to share, so my recollection of this, the first couple of years, these first 2 fiscal years, as a pilot, and so I believe we discussed what criteria would be, but the pilot itself was not based upon financial hardship or eligibility. I think what we were looking at was, is there value in offering this? And so I think now, in going forward, I believe that this is something for the council to consider is financial, what are the criteria? I mean, we haven't really defined that, and I would say that is something that I think deserves, you just give me a second. I think that this pilot, and the question is this something that we're offering? Why are we offering it, right? Is it offering it because we feel that there are folks who wouldn't be able to participate in this because they couldn't afford it? Reasons for offering it, which is just we have aging in place. There are a certain number of people who want it. And again, we feel as a council that we want to do it. So, I mean, I'm not debating or saying that financial criteria, but I think for the pilot, we never said that I think it was an evaluation. So the real question becomes going forward would be, is that something that we should do? And one thing I want to pose, we don't have the answers on it, but is this something that we could we know 11 people, I don't know if we know the names. I mean, is this something that is too sensitive to actually reach out to folks and say, is this program, you've signed up, it's of value, and, have a question about the idea of this subsidy from the village, is it something that they feel is needed or not? Would they still be doing it? I don't know if that's too sensitive. I mean, we don't have to get into income, but I don't think it's that difficult of a question to just say, we've been doing the subsidy. We want to manage our budget in a conservative way. And we want to know if this subsidy were not available, would you still continue doing the program? Is being in the program contingent on this subsidy?
I was just gonna.
Sorry, I see Susan Post's hand up and she can offer some perspective on this. She's involved with the Chevy Chase at Home. I should state that. Susan, did you have a comment or?
Well, I wondered, do you have the names of the people who signed up through Chevy Chase at Home with your sponsorship?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you I forget how long ago this took place, but do you know if anyone, I think it was hoped that people would sign up through through Martin's Editions and then decide it was worth their while to keep doing it and pay for that themselves. It was a way of introducing people to Chevy Chase at Home with the hope that they would then self-fund. I don't know if you know whether any people have done that, or are we not quite to the second year yet?
Well, the clock started
We are in the
last
second
fiscal
year,
year. Yeah.
and
So-
several people have, had the village pay for their first year,
Mhm.
and then they paid for their second year. That has happened.
Oh, okay.
And some people have stayed on, and some people are new people that joined during the second year. So it's a mixture.
Can I just say, from my recollection, foundationally speaking, our discussion was about the village having the financial means to do so and to offer it to village residents who may not. I think that was the foundational conversation to start this. And so, great if we have repeat customers, great if they've been introduced to it and then decided maybe it's a better year financially, they can do it themselves. But I think that was the basic conversations, the basis of this conversation. And I'm okay having some kind of verbiage that talks about, this is something the village is offering for residents that might not have the means or might have to choose between this and something else. And we would like to offer them the ability not to have to choose between two issues that are important to them in their daily lives. So
Right. That was the workaround that Ron devised, the scholarship ideal,
Financial assistance.
in lieu of donations,
Mhm.
direct donations, since we have policies contradicting that
Right.
action.
See, there are a lot of the other little local governments that make a $5,000
Sure.
contribution, say, each year. And this was a way of offering something to residents without our doing that.
yeah.
Right.
And there's like 20 or under 20 people in the village that have signed up for Chevy Chase at Home,
Mhm.
and we're paying for half those people.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what the breakdown is right now. Now, we don't have any way of means testing, or I don't know that those are the poor of the people that have signed up,
Yeah.
but they have signed up on their own, on their own. And like to Jeff's point, we could do a program evaluation to see, are you getting benefits out of
Remind me
this
what
program?
the annual cost is for this.
It depends if you're signing up with your partner or your spouse, or whether you're signing up as an individual.
Right.
So there's a slight difference, but it's between $500 and $700. Susan posts.
No, I'll look it up.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's in that range though.
For the year.
So let me toss something out. And again, this might be something administratively to work with Ron. And again, this idea that we said that for these first 2 years was a pilot. So if we want to look at this as a transformation of going from that to now, if we're, and again, every year this will have to go up for approval or not. So if not already, maybe in this statement that we're asking people to check off, maybe we have a little bit tighter language around the village is offering this whatever scholarship for those who may need financial assistance. And we are not going to just that, right? We're not going to do an audit of their income tax, but just simply say, we are offering this to residents who need financial assistance. If you feel that whatever it is, then they check it. Yeah, but we're gonna, at this moment, unless you feel differently, we're not gonna do an audit of people's finances. We're gonna, at least at this time, we're gonna rely on to say that they know if they need to check it, if they need.
I mean, it was
financial
never
assistance.
contemplated that we would intrude into
Yeah,
people's
yeah.
finances. We didn't want to do that, but we also wanted to represent it as a program that was available to those who could not otherwise afford it. And I think that has not been communicated. And therefore, we did have people saying, oh, sure, if it's free, I'll take it. And in fact, we did have a resident mention that
Yeah.
in the meeting.
So with
So there's
that, how would
some
folks,
confusion.
if we put that
Bravo to
language?
those people.
It sounds like we're all on the same page. The next time, before the next renewal cycle for everybody that's on this program,
Yeah.
we will workshop this.
Yeah.
If we can get a couple people to step up from the council and help me edit it to make sure it's sensitive, but also getting at this, they need it.
I'm happy to
That's
be
fine.
part of that,
Yeah.
Great.
wordsmithing.
Could I be part of that?
One,
Susan.
one quick second, Susan, just one question. We have the information of residents who are participating, but not through our scholarship as
No.
well?
No,
But you know that there's 20 people
I
or
know
so?
who I've paid for.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I thought I heard you say the 20 from the village that are participating, half of them are getting our scholarship funds.
The director of Chevy Chase at Home told me how many
okay.
people have signed up from our
Gotcha.
geographical area,
Yeah.
Okay,
and I know how many people I've paid for.
Right,
So
right.
I've seen those transactions.
okay.
Well, I have a question for Susan, and sorry to put you on the spot, not you, Susan Post. So have you received any feedback from I know we're trying to be quiet, respectful with this service, but have you heard any feedback from residents who have benefited from this line item in the budget? And also, I saw like Chevy Chase at Home was at the sidewalk celebration last week, and I don't know if enough residents know that it's available, so maybe we look for more opportunities to kind of spread that word too. But my first question is, Susan, have you received any feedback from any of our residents, appreciative or even, that they don't really find it necessary, good or bad?
I don't know, but I could find out from the director. And I want to let you know that the cost annually for a household, in other words, a couple, is $675. And for an individual, it's $525. And that's for the full membership where they can use all these services as much as they want to. And, you might want to put in whatever you do put out about it, that you're sort of subsidizing for people who need the services, not just people who want to be part of the group and, go to the social programs and the speakers and stuff like that. But you're really doing it for people who don't drive. That's the biggest thing that we do is take people to doctor's appointments and PT and stuff like that. And some minor household repairs. There are any number of people, and there are a lot of people in Martin's Additions who aren't members but are volunteers. A whole other category of people who do help the ones who are members, who have a full membership and need help, but aren't members themselves because they don't need to be. I can find out.
On the membership, is it 12 months? I know that's a silly question, but like I have
It's-
memberships and I pay for them and then I blink and then I'm like, oh, it's due again. Like I lose track.
No, it's 12 months. It's
12
pretty much
months.
March to March.
March to March. Okay. And so if someone calls the office and Michael and someone like say in April or May, do they still get 12 months from that? Are we paying for those 12 months or is it for, you know what I mean? Like, is it still, are we
It's
still
a-
getting?
That's a
Annual
good
membership.
question.
You can sign up whenever you want.
You sign, okay,
Okay.
all right.
And it's, so Susan's point is not just need-based, not just financial need, but also a need to function in your day-to-day lives and with the offerings that they provide. Yeah.
At last meeting, Naomi Nyerman had a comment appreciative of the program. And it's all she said. She didn't have any details on that.
Right. She said that she was signing up this year and she'd pay for it herself, I
She's
think.
paying
Yeah.
for it herself. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
Okay,
fine.
good.
All right, well, any other points on this? All right, I think if we're ready, he wanted to make I was going to make
As a
a
chair?
motion. Yeah, I was going to make a motion. I would like a second. What I say, to introduce or approve?
To adopt.
To adopt. Adopt, that's the verb. All right, thank you. I make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2026 budget ordinance, 2025-1, is that correct? Which will start July 1st, 2025 and end June 30th, 2026. Is there a second?
I'll
Are
second
there
that.
all in favor?
You,
All opposed?
and then we
The
have,
budget passes.
at a tax rate.
Right,
Sorry, who seconded that?
This
Martha.
guy, I did.
yes.
Thank you.
And it was all five.
He was
And
fast.
it's only that easy in Congress. Okay, and now we have a fiscal year 2026 tax rate resolution. That's number 2025-2. Am I saying
That's
these numbers
correct.
correctly?
Yep,
Okay, which does not change the rates from last year.
That's
Is that
correct. Tax
Okay.
rates are remain
Thank
the same.
goodness, no decimal points.
The lowest
at
in the,
risk.
the lowest in the state.
All right, and our decimal points are correct. All right, good.
Shit,
Would someone like to make a motion for that?
Oh,
Or,
I'd like to make a motion on that.
oh, okay, Susan makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'd like to second that because
Oh.
Susan made the motion.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Great. And all in favor?
I,
Aye.
All right. Okay, opposed? The tax resolution passes.
were
Excellent.
you
All right.
I was gonna ask
We
you
have a
that.
budget and we live another year. So, next up is our manager's report from, Michael Silman, who's also mentioned a master gardener in training.
That's right.
Yes. Congratulations on that program.
Thank you very much. Okay, how we all doing?
All right.
I'll keep this short because we're
Great.
moving along, all friendly here. The village office will be closed on the 26th. That's for Memorial Day, just a reminder for everybody. We will hold a volunteer appreciation event, including street captains and all our committee and task force volunteers and all of you who serve this village so diligently. We'll hold an appreciation event for you on June 14th from 4 to 6 p.m. at La Ferme.
including spouses
You can bring your spouse, yes, Arthur,
or friends.
sure. And maybe not friends. Let's keep it in family.
Okay.
14th before
Residents
7.
of your household, as I said. The village office will be closed on June 19th in celebration of Juneteenth. That is our policy. We're doing that this year. However, there is a council meeting that night, so I will come in for the council meeting on Juneteenth. And during that council meeting, we will have to have a budget adjustment for FY25. There are a couple edits to the budget where we knew we were going over and we mentioned it, but we just want to make sure we're all squared away there.
Should we move that council meeting so we don't have it on a holiday that I think
Yeah, we
maybe we
We
should move it.
can,
You
Yeah.
want to move it?
Yeah, if it's a holiday.
Sounds like a wise suggestion.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
mean, is it okay to move it a week or to the
Move
26th?
it up or
Well, we have to
Up or
be,
back a
we
week?
have to be in the fiscal year.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
It has to be
26th
in
is still
June.
the.
Yeah, right.
still
Or
the-
the 12th? Or is that too early, the 12th or the
No, let's
26th?
do the 26th, if that works for folks,
26th.
I think so.
Okay.
so that we can honor our village manager
Thank you very much.
with a day off.
Yeah.
And Juneteenth, pardon me, in wrong
Respect to
order.
that, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
good, okay.
update to that, we're moving the June council meeting to June 26th.
I won't be able to attend, but that's great. I'm just kidding.
And that will be Katie's last council meeting, so we'll celebrate with cake for you that time maybe.
And who says government is not nimble?
At this
We
level,
worked it out. There you go.
If we can't be nimble at this level,
the new village council, the FY26 council, will meet on July 1 at 7:30 p.m. So those people can put that on their calendars. For that's swearing in, strategic planning session, and kind of I want to prepare the call for volunteers like early in the year to get that
Get it
started
out.
going.
What-
So let's do all
what
of
day of
that.
the week is that?
Tuesday, is that also, is that officer elections, like for the
Would be
council?
for
Yes,
the
correct.
first
Yes.
meeting.
That's an administrative function you all select amongst yourselves. Yep. July 1. So July 1 is important because I go on vacation July 2.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to Seattle for the actual 4th of July. Project updates. You might have noticed if I have your cell phone number, you just received a text message from VMA that this is our annual meeting that's starting here. If you didn't receive a text message, that's because I don't have your cell phone number in my directory. So please send me your cell phone number. I have put out calls for your cell phone number. I have set out a survey for your cell phone number. I've been constantly trying to update it. I also sent it to everyone that said they sent me their landline just to see if it's their cell phone number actually. So
Can I ask you a question about that?
sure.
Who can send those? Only you? Only from a central location there, or how does that work?
Whoever I set up as an administrator in this program called Regroup can send text messages. I am currently the only person that is trained and set up to do it. Aaron will be the next person that I get up to speed and trained on to do this. And then we could potentially look at for council members in the future.
I think that would.
I think for purposes of efficacy, there needs to be a mechanism where, because this is something to be shared with all village residents who have provided a cell phone, maybe we need to provide your cell phone insofar as people don't have it, because that's the only route to get this out, like information, like we had that incident on Turner. Who do we send that to you so that it gets sent out to everyone? And I don't know, is this a mobile? Do you have to sit at your desk, or you can do it from your phone?
There's a mobile option as well.
Okay.
I haven't fully set that up and got that off the ground. This is my first test.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
also a whole thing about if you want to opt out, if you want to opt in,
Yep.
if people want to respond to specific prompts, you
Yeah.
can create
Yeah.
specific prompts in the system. So it's a very, very complicated system that also does a bunch of email notifications as well, that I'm not ready to send out email notifications via this tool. So we're still using Constant Contact for all our email communications.
So I'm
So
just thinking for emergencies.
yeah, right.
How to turn something around quickly.
Yeah.
And
And you know,
having
text messages can only be 160 characters, or it gets chopped into, turns into multiple messages that don't
Yeah.
necessarily come in order and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, it's not the smoothest system.
Yeah, that's a great
and-
start.
Or not the best system, but this was one of the things Katie mentioned when I first started here, that she really wanted the ability to text something. So now we have the ability to text something. So
Legacy.
And just
that's
for-
our
My
legacy.
legacy.
Point of order for administration, I know that you have my mobile phone, right? You definitely have my number, but I didn't get a message, so just make
Okay.
sure it's on there. Here you go. No, I say that with great love. I happen to know that you have my text
I say that
because
with a
I
I
get
text you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll update the directory to make sure your phone number is included in there.
awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
So anyways,
Well done.
every time I start something like this, there's always going to be a million bugs to work out. So, and also there's not spell check on these text messages
Mhm.
platforms. So that's something I'm trying to get them to add to the platform.
And if
If
you're,
it's an emergency, people can be flexible with the
Right,
spelling.
Yes.
with my spelling, thank you.
yeah, yes. And if their cell phone isn't in the directory, they can reach out to you to be added with their cell phone, right? To the text alert.
Sorry.
If you're going off the directory and you're not listed under your cell phone, like my cell phone's not in the directory,
That's correct.
I
Yep.
just can tell you.
I
myself
only,
to add me.
I only print the phone number that you asked me to print
Right,
in the directory.
Right.
But I want to have both your
Both.
landline and your cell phone
Yeah.
number. And that's true for every single person. I know some couples in the village
Mhm.
share a phone number,
Yeah.
but I'm listing it twice. And if you share an email address, then I only can list it once. So that's a glitch in both of our Constant Contact and
Yeah.
Regroup systems as well. I
And now
need
that
a
it's-
unique email address for every single person, though I do not need a unique phone number.
Now that it's basically up and running, I would recommend for the next couple of months in your weekly wrap up
Mhm.
to have it top of line. People don't scroll down often.
Above the
And just
fold.
say, if you would like to be added to the VMA emergency text messaging system, please send me your cell phone if you haven't already.
Okay.
I would say, put that in there.
And we're not calling it emergency because I don't want to be confused with actual emergency services. We're calling it day of alerts.
Yeah.
It's an
Mhm.
alert system, not emergencies.
Mhm.
I cannot call the 911 for you.
Yeah,
If
but
you have an
just
emergency,
just
please call
alert, you know, what's the
Alert.
day of? May?
Well,
Did we
alert
focus,
system.
did we
Alert.
focus group that?
How about neighborhood
We can
alerts?
workshop that.
Neighborhood alerts, so that it,
Yeah.
because one person's emergency might mean something different to
Yeah.
another person. Yeah.
There'll be some trial and error, so just
Okay.
bear with us.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank
There'll
you.
be some, yeah.
The next thing is what I actually thought you all wanted to talk about tonight, though I know the text messaging is very exciting. I have a proposal in front of you for speed humps on Turner Lane. The proposal was what you saw before. It is here, and I have a price estimate to get it built from LCS Property Services. We got several estimates, and they all came in very, very close to each other. So that starts on, I guess, page Page 12, is it? Page 12. No, sorry, page 12, something else. This is not in order. Page 13. See proposal, it's for, to build, basically to build the three speed humps as we discussed on Turner Lane, $9,900. And there's another slight additional fee that'll come in later when we put in the signage for these actual speed humps as well.
Great.
Can I get a council approval of this?
I'd like to move. that we
Okay,
approve
Andrew,
this.
Oh, I'll second.
Andrew, Katie's getting her votes in when she
I
can.
have to, yeah.
How does everyone
Short
else feel?
timer.
All in favor?
Yeah, in favor, but I would really like to see action on the other streets that were priorities.
Oh,
This is not in lieu of the other
I
streets.
know it's
This
not,
is just
but
the
let's,
first one.
yeah, just saying.
I'm in
Yeah.
favor of all streets.
May I ask
All
a dumb
streets.
question? Well, I don't know if it's dumb,
No
but
such
just,
thing as a dumb
so.
question.
Oh, yeah, there
Is
is.
this a process where knowing where these are being placed near various residents? Is this a process where you inform, you need their input, or is this sort of manifest destiny just?
The engineer knows best, right? Page 16 shows you exactly where they are.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out there with this can of spray paint and mark each of them. So people are gonna start asking questions about what's going on your street. And there's gonna be, like I said last time, anything you do is gonna have people that love it and people that hate it. So that's gonna be the reality. Yeah.
And so I think, so this is just Turner.
That's
So I'm
right.
just asking questions. So there are 3 proposed, is that correct? 3.
3 proposed on
So
her.
does that mean essentially for, in terms of parking spots, that could mean the loss of?
Does not impact the parking
Doesn't,
spot.
you can park on this bump.
You can park, I've parked on many of them.
You can park on speed bumps. The speed bumps will go curb to curb though, besides for the gutter, so water can still run. But they do go curb from curb, because when cars aren't parked there, you don't want people swerving into the park lane to try to get around them without going over the bump. Everyone driving up the road will have to go over 3 speed bumps. If you're going around and just turning around in the cul-de-sac and waving at Keith, you will have to cross 6 speed bumps, which I do every single day.
Magnificent.
Right, Keith?
3511 is mentioned there. What's the reason for that?
3511.
3511 Turner.
Oh, I think that they just highlighted a couple of the addresses that they're in front of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So made a big difference.
All right.
Great. Thank you all for your approval of that. So the very next item on my report on page 11 refers to the bump outs. Lori Mitchell stepped out of the room, so I unfortunately, she was the one that asked a very brilliant question last time about these designs related to the bump outs on Shepherd and Cummings, and that was that she thought that they were supposed to be in the driving lane to force cars to slow down, swerve into the parking lane, and then back to the driving lane on the other side. Actually, the engineers said that is not ever recommended because there's a liability concern when you make someone swerve out of a driving lane into a parking lane. And if you are going to do that, you actually have to take up about 5 parking spaces versus if you do it on the parking side, you only have to take up 1 parking space. And the other thing is that it does provide a calming effect if you do a bump out on the parking side and just take up 1 parking space, because when there's not parked cars, people still have to slow down, and it actually does narrow. Parked cars slow traffic anyways, but now even without parked cars at that section of the street, it will still slow people down. So that's the rationale from the engineer. So that was an interesting thing. They said they would not work on a project that was building an island in the driving lane at all. They were that against it. So that's the rationale. I'm not sure what the original discussion was on the walkability task force that Lori remembers, but it actually should go according to the engineers, it should go in the parking side, and you can do some signage and stuff, and it will narrow the street, but it doesn't change the driving lane, so you don't swerve and then swerve back. They said if you are going to do that and build a swerve, you actually have to build 3 islands, 1 in the driving lane, one so that you can't swerve too early into the park lane, and then one on the other side, so you have to swerve back to the driving lane. So that actually creates 2 swerves and takes up a ton of space. So you're talking about 5 parking spaces plus driveways. So that's the rationale. If we want to proceed with the design that we have, I can go ahead and get estimates for those. Some of the same people that we got estimates for this one, we have estimates or are ready to give us estimates on these 2
Yeah.
for Shepherd and
I want to look,
Shepherd
go do that, but I want to go back and look at what the suggestions were from the walkability. She remembered it differently, but I want to make sure.
Yeah,
what the
I think
design
that
was
was
Look at
Chris
that.
Jakubiak's.
No, it wasn't. I think it was
Paul
the
Dorr, that's
traffic group.
Paul
who drew
Dorr
it.
and the traffic group.
Yeah, I think it
thought
was.
Paul
the traffic group.
Dorr used his exact design that he designed for us years ago. So he just refreshed it. But he didn't change it. So
Okay.
that's who I'm working with. I walked
Okay.
over there with him and so
With who? I didn't hear with who.
his name is Paul Dorr. He's
Oh.
he's the
the guy
engineer
we-
at the traffic. group.
Okay. So he did the original one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he also is the one that put in the speed humps when Niles was here, I think on Thornapple and a few other
Yeah,
places.
yeah.
So
Okay.
that's correct. And then the last thing I was just going to mention is that Washington Gas will be replacing a gas line in Rollingwood right at the end of Cummings, right as Cummings leaves the village, Cummings and Brendan. So just a heads up, there is a map on page 12 of your packet of where that will take effect. It's right outside of the village, but it's trending on the Rollingwood listserv right now. So I just wanted to make sure you all
Okay.
were aware of that.
Okay.
And that concludes my report for this time.
Are you hearing anything about traffic enforcement?
No,
So where are we? We've submitted a contract.
correct. We've submitted a contract that we believe Ron has stolen. We've submitted a contract to the County Department of Transit's Parking Enforcement Division. That is the exactly same contract that they have with other municipalities. They brought me into their headquarters. They trained me. They gave me a ticket book. We acted as if we were ready to go. And then they said, before we sign this new contract, we have to have our attorney review it. The attorney has so far
Can
not
we
responded.
Is there anything in your background that's holding that up?
No, it's not a review of
Is
me.
there anything we can do to give them a call or I don't know, something to prod them along?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I've copied you on some of my emails to them. I did have a conversation with one of my contacts over there who said it was just that the attorney was confused and, they're not reviewing or signing new contracts with municipalities. These date back to the 90s when these were originally signed. So, and they couldn't find that original report. So I think it just got lost somewhere.
Forget about the original one, just have them do
Well, I
the.
also have a question because they gave me they have an agreement on the books, like
Yeah.
the system thinks I'm a certified ticket writer in the county. So I have a number, everything. I could go write a ticket right now. And the question is what would happen because there's no paperwork behind there that's like validated by anybody or signed by anybody that we can find.
Yeah.
So they would probably work, but the question is what the fallout with that would be.
Okay.
Right, Ron?
I think we gotta shake a few.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
One of the things I could start doing is start testing the system by writing warnings, but I want to kind of ask them if that's okay for me to start doing. Like, while we're waiting for this contract to be
Yeah.
signed, can I start issuing warnings or something? Because that is the kind of the key solution to like 90% of our
Right,
safety
right,
concerns that come in are parking concerns.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time to shake a few desks over
yeah,
there.
so I'll keep on that.
Okay,
That's a good point.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Thanks, Michael. All right,
Get us
well,
out of here.
we have another resident comments.
I'll make the
All
comment.
right, you want to close the
I know
resident
there's
comments?
3 guys here that are very happy to put the speed bumps on Turner Lane.
Plus the number of cats.
And does anybody, that's
This
right,
is true.
and does anybody have any idea why the surveyors are on Turner Lane and then?
Yes.
No.
The surveyors that are in the village this week are from Bayland. They're our water engineer, and they're surveying the streets, manholes, and I think it was 11 properties that they got access to this week.
That's why the
Yep.
manhole hole covers making noise today.
Yes, that's right. That's us.
Everybody have a pleasant evening.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Mayor.
Get ready for the possibility of storms tomorrow.
Okay,
Maybe some heavy rain, a lot of humidity the next couple of days, but then humidity goes down, the weather gets beautiful. And remember what I said, it's gonna be a cool end to the month.
Mhm.
Would you like a cupcake before
Yes, you have to take,
I think I'm gonna pass on that.
oh,
Well, maybe I'll-
oh. All
Chris is
right.
on.
That's right. I had some resident comments from Taylor, or a question. I don't know what you call the unit on top of the roof here of the facility, but there used to be a fence around it, and then the fence has been taken down, and apparently there's some noise that is vibrating down to certain houses on Taylor Street, and they said it's very distracting, and they wondered what was going on with that unit. Do you have any
It's not
intel?
our building.
Right,
let's be
right.
clear, it's on
I
top of the
cleared that
market.
up. Right,
Yeah,
yeah. I
that's the
just wondered
AC
if-
unit.
the
I know they
AC
did some
unit.
work on it. I'm not sure
Yeah.
exactly what's going on there, but
Okay,
I can try to ask.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told them that that's not we don't.
but there
own that.
are noise
Mhm.
issues that well, the county formally deals with noise, but we had
Correct.
problems with that with some other air conditioners.
Mhm.
They put fencing around it that
Mhm.
reduced the noise.
Yeah, the fence isn't there. They took the fence down. I don't.
So this
recall
might be a
when.
county complaint more than a
Oh.
village
But we
complaint.
could talk to
But
them
we could,
about,
we
Okay.
could check it out.
yeah,
Okay.
putting up,
And it is an AC unit. It's not one of these restaurant related, like
It's on top of the
air
market. Yeah.
circulation
This
thing.
end.
It's AC. I've seen them up there working on
Yeah,
it. so.
okay. So they're in the middle of working on it. Okay. I'll relay that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are
Our
there,
AC unit is fixed. I'm
Yes.
sorry if you're cold in here today, but
since you
I'm
I think
enjoying it.
that feels great.
Okay.
I love it. Are there any resident comments or questions? I don't see one. Okay,
Great.
okay,
yeah.
all right. And then, does anybody have any concluding remarks? This is my council comment. Anybody have anything to
Move to
say?
adjourn.
Everyone's so quiet tonight. Okay, well, thank you to everyone who attended tonight's meeting. Our next council meeting has been scheduled for June 26th now. Is that correct?
Yes.
26th.
June 26th, okay.
And
And,
we have the vote count next week.
vote
Yes.
count next week. Okay. All right. So would someone like to make a motion to end the meeting?
I'd like to.
Okay, Susan, you can make your motion.
I'd
Anyone
like to
have a
move to
second?
adjourn.
I will second
A
that.
second? All in favor? All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Ron.